Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Outcomes Rocket Founder Stories. I'm so excited to host Dr. Sam Zand on the podcast today. He's a holistic psychiatrist, professor of psychedelic medicine, and he's on a mission to evolve mental health. I'm excited to have him here. His background is also in business from Hopkins and public health. His psych studies were at UNLV. We're going to cover telepsychiatry. We're going to cover psychedelics. We're going to cover mental health. It's going to be a great one, so stay with it. Sam, so great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great. We're on the same island, hanging out, having a conversation.
We're on the same island, which is so cool. So hey, man, like just to share with people, like what are you doing on the island as a way for them to understand like what you do?
Yeah. So I moved to Puerto Rico, and we live on this immersive wellness retreat center out in the jungle and the foothills of the rainforest. We bring people out and just do all the immersive work. 3-4 night retreats where you just kind of wake up, do a river plunge right there on the property, come up, do some meditation, some group work, some yoga, somatics. And then the modality we use is ketamine therapy, legal and, prescribable. And so we help people really have that neuroplastic reset in a place where it's beautiful. You kind of come to from the experience, and you just come to this beautiful nature, and we'll do waterfall hikes and everything, digital detox, nutritional detox. So it's been really exciting to put that together. My work in psychiatry and mental health, it's obvious how much we need a little bit of a break, a break in routine, get out of the grind. And really it comes down to that neuroplasticity with the brain. So it's been an exciting journey being out here on the island, and it's tough sometimes, right? Like we're on a retreat, and all of a sudden the power's out, the water goes out. There's just a lot of circumstances, but I think it makes it really fun and charming in a way when you connect with nature, and that's the expectation.
I totally agree, man. We've been here for a year, and I love the nature and the waterfalls, the beaches, definitely right there with you, my man. And it's so great that you're here. And literally, folks, I literally just found out that Sam's here in Puerto Rico. So Sam, we're going to have to connect for sure.
Absolutely.
Hey, yeah, man, looking forward to that. Transitioning to, your journey, what got you into entrepreneurship? You guys are now in over 20 states. Like, what is it that put the bug in you to pursue this, and why in healthcare?
Yeah, what a great question. I mean, looking at the kind of journey for me from a young age, I was always that kid that was a hustler. I was always trying to, elementary school, sell pencils, middle school, sell baseball cards. Like, it was just always fun for whatever reason. I don't know how that started at a young age, but it became my childhood habit. And then organizing teams and, putting together just, small versions of infrastructure at a young age. Like, I was a coach for basketball. My dad always said, "You're never going to make it to the NBA, but you could be a coach. So why don't we push you there a little bit?"
Yes. It's very practical advice.
Right. And it was that parental, guidance, and many times forced. Two of my older sisters, they are both doctors, so it was the expectation that I would go and be a doctor as well. But I fought it, and I don't know why. I think it was because I saw my sisters struggle and kind of suffer. And, brilliant. Like, my oldest sister went to Harvard, and it's a competitive, cutthroat environment. She would cry at home, like, "Why did I do this?" And then I'm like, "Do I want to do this?" And so it was always this pushback. Don't want to go into medicine, but business was my calling. And Pops just always told me, like, "What do you want to do in business? Why don't you be a doctor first and then create a business and actually focus on helping people at scale?" And, as young kids, I was just in one ear out the other, but I think finally it caught up to me, like, realizing that
That's
the
awesome.
Education with public health, with entrepreneurship and management, and then really enjoying the specialty of the mind really kind of became that calling for me to help people on mental health and also scale it out in a way where we can really provide that access, and everybody who's a part of that ecosystem gets to thrive. Our motto is patients first, team second, business last. And it's a big, big ecosystem. So it's it's always been a rush to kind of, get into something like this.
That's great, man. It sounds like there was a little resistance at first, but then you sort of opened yourself up to it, and you've just blossomed into just really some great work. So let's spend a little time uncovering that. So tell us about how you're adding value to the ecosystem. You shared with some of the retreats and things like that, but tell us about the practice and the biggest ways you add value. Yeah.
Yeah. So we primarily, the company is called Anywhere Clinic. We started in 2017 before COVID with the intention of saying in psychiatry, we don't always really need to be in the same room. I saw so many of our patients struggle in the waiting room. Physically, there's a stress that they're agoraphobic, they're anxious, they're stressed out, they have PTSD and mental health. Once they got into the office, I had to kind of help them relax before we can even start. Now, if we can do that from the comfort of your own home, we don't have to deal with those obstacles. So it was evident from early in my career that telepsychiatry is something that needs to be brought to the public. It just didn't happen back then because insurance wasn't covering it. There were some stipulations where if it was a rural city, then insurance would cover it. So that's where we started. What we grew to during COVID was now everybody can access telepsychiatry and teletherapy and telemental health. So we expanded beyond our home state of Nevada and just kept growing into new states. And, that's now become quite the norm, right? Like telepsychiatry care. So now where we differentiate is, I think in psychiatry, we all understand it's a little bit of an archaic field. Like we're stuck in ways of treatment that we've been doing for 50 years. And so when we have new modalities, it's really exciting to see the efficacy go up and the patient response just improve. Ketamine therapy did that for me in our practice. TMS and neurostimulation does that. And so these new tools that we teach and we train our providers for, a lot of them are accessible only in office. A lot of them, there was a time in ketamine therapy where that started to blossom, where a bunch of companies came, and I founded a company in that space as well. It's kind of a side project. And so now there's access. Well, what are the barriers still? Where are the gaps that we need to plug? One is something like ketamine therapy has a really high cost associated with it when it has a high price tag when the cost isn't that high. And everybody's fighting for, to try not to lower their margin, but they're all competing in a space where the customer acquisition cost is so high. So how do we then go to that population, which, tell you the truth, most people who need this kind of care can't afford, online prices right now in the self-pay market. So we brought insurance coverage to online at-home ketamine therapy. That's something I'm really excited about because now you can have Medicaid in the states that we accept it, and we're slowly growing, and that's the whole challenge too, getting there. But you can have Medicaid and have the same service that in other clinics might cost $1,000. So I think plugging those gaps is so important. And there's so much more in this industry, but these are the things that it's fun kind of staying at a large scale. How do we shift what the people need and provide a service that still works on the business end as well?
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool, Sam. And interesting, right? I love to hear the story of the beginning, right? And that you saw that virtual psychiatry was a play, and you saw that rural settings was the way in. So you're like, you know what? If that's where it makes sense and that's where the reimbursement is, I'm going to do it there. We all know what happened with COVID, and thanks to sort of your foresight, you were able to take advantage of infrastructure, experience, and scale massively. And now it sounds like you're doing it with other things such as ketamine therapy and things like that. So that as the markets slowly start to open up, you're in a position of advantage. And I think folks, I love just hearing stories like this from Sam. If you have insight and foresight, take advantage of it. Find that opportunity like Sam has in his business many times. This is a habit. Success is a habit, as Aristotle says, when you keep doing it over and over. And this is a great lesson to take away from this discussion with Sam. And so, Sam, talk to us about setbacks. Feel like we learn more about the stuff we got ourselves into versus the stuff that works out all the time. So talk to us about that and how it's made you better.
Yeah. And thanks for the kind words. And also that guidance to all the listeners that, once you kind of have that insight into the future, it's not only just go after it, but understand that there's an uphill battle there, right? If it's not the norm, you're going to need to ruffle some feathers and figure it out and make some mistakes. And mistakes are very difficult to make or very costly to make in a medical service industry. So there's a lot of fear. That's why medicine doesn't innovate that much, right? We kind of stick with our path because the risk is so high. So, I think some of the learning lessons early on one was the energy in which we approach a new business and entrepreneurial field that especially might be contradictory to the norm, to the status quo. I was very resistant and kind of combative with psychiatry in the beginning. I still call myself the kind of anti-psychiatry psychiatrist. It's a field that, it's just for so many reasons. When I signed up for the work and I started residency, I was like, wow, what are we doing? I feel like a jail warden. I don't feel like a care provider in an inpatient psych hospital. Outpatient, really, I started to find the beauty in it, but it was this resistant energy. And it comes back to Bruce Lee, be water. You're not going to move forward if you're fighting. And so just go with the current. And that change in energy, I think, released a lot of tension and opened up a lot of possibility where psychiatry is doing good things. I don't have to have animosity toward the industry, but let's evolve. Let's understand why we have some shortcomings and be honest about it with our patients. And then keep teaching what we're learning day to day and add to it and grow. And so that shift really, I think, was a learning lesson that, I had to go through. There's that was the emotional one. There's a lot more on the legal side, on the infrastructure, on training, on medical service, but that one stands out to me the most.
Yeah, and I'm glad you went there. It's those what we say to ourselves, what we believe internally, could be what holds us back. It's those lids that we put on ourselves.
Yeah,
and that resistance is. No, go ahead, Sam. Sam, please.
Sorry, the words we use with ourselves, the energy we carry ourselves, like that's part of the mental health work that we are trying to help people with. And it starts with taking care of yourself, right? Like understanding that the programming we give ourselves, it comes in language and internal thought, the things we say out loud, it comes in behaviors and habits. And all of those little things add up. So if you want to be successful in business or just happy in life, we have to pay attention to the way in which we carry ourselves and the choice of words that we have. And that's really why I dig this industry, because neuroplasticity and the ability to understand the brain as a computer and to upgrade the programming and upgrade the hardware, that's just such a powerful transformation that I get to see every day with my patients. And we're just not there yet as a norm, as an understanding of that, but it's exciting.
Yeah, it definitely is. And while we were first kind of setting up for the podcast before hitting record, we sort of talked about where this could go, where the conversation could unfold. And one of those areas of discussion is psychedelics. I recently had a conversation with a good friend, Nico Skavatsky. He's started his business in this area, a software company to help with the supply chain of it. Talk to us about psychedelics, the role of psychedelics in mental health, and what you guys are doing with them.
Yeah. Let's start from the just science and the impact that it can have on us societally. And I'd love also to talk about the business side of things, because it's a fast-paced industry right now that's slowed down recently. So psychedelics, for those who might be new to it, as a medicine, we've known for thousands and thousands of years that cultures, shamans, doctors of the old days were using them. And we just didn't really get why. And we know about what happened in the 1900s, where these things were discovered in Western medicine and they were kind of shut down by the government. Ketamine became, in recent years, a widely used tool in mental health. And it was done as an IV injection, nasal spray. We do it as a lozenge under the tongue as well. And it's an experience. It changes the paradigm of how we treat medicine and mental health. Instead of take this pill passively every day, we're saying have an experience very intentionally. You're going to feel something. It's going to feel a little dissociative, a little off, a little meditative, a little maybe clairvoyant. There's this overview effect where your perspective shifts. And that whole perspective shift is this concept of neuroplasticity, and psychedelics is like neuroplasticity on rocket fuel. You are just in a state where your brain is so open and communicative and flexible that sometimes it's even a little bit hallucinatory. But that also is, I think, a little bit of a misnomer in this industry. Like, we're not trying to get people to hallucinate. That's the high dosage range. At a very low dose, it's a gentle introduction to a new perspective of self. And it's not scary. And it's just kind of this reset for the brain where we get to see ourselves outside of our day to day. And then when we come back to ourselves, it's like, wow, there were some insights there, or there were some things I was focusing on that seemed so stressful. But now that I look at it from a big picture, it's just not. And that accelerates the therapeutic work that we do in mental health. So it's just such an exciting opportunity. I give someone Prozac and I'm like, let's do some inner child work. Okay, like the Prozac didn't really influence the inner child work that we're doing. But when we do a ketamine session and when we get to dive in, now the brain is malleable, the walls are down, the subconscious is open. And with the right guidance, we can accelerate therapeutic growth such rapid, in such more efficient ways, right? Rather than just, it feels like an uphill battle when you're doing talk therapy. So that's the excitement that we have on the clinical side.
Yeah, that's big, man. And what about on the business side? You're gonna comment on the business side of things.
Yeah, in 2020, when COVID happened, the DEA had to make a decision about how do doctors treat their patients, and we all know that they opened up the ability to prescribe controlled substances without an in-person visit. This created a boom in a lot of controlled substance markets that catered to a self-pay crowd, still wanted to get their testosterone replacement, that needed their, psych meds. And ketamine therapy became really a huge opportunity because it was a gateway into psychedelic medicine, the legal option. So in a time when we were all so disconnected and we were isolated in our box and we were the opposite of neuroplastic, we were neurorigid, right? We weren't having healthy social outlets. There were no vacations. There was just, we were stuck all watching Tiger King together. It was a time where we really needed this disruption. And so Mindblown was the pioneer. And, I have personal opinions. I know a lot of those people. But I think, if anything, what you can commend Mindblown for was taking a chance. Like, they went in and they said, we're just going to do this. Ketamine therapy, you get the drugs in the mail. We have the clinicians who are trained. And we founded a company called Better You. I believe we were third or fourth to market at the time. And off of the platform of Anywhere Clinic that had been around for 4 or 5 years, we were able to rapidly expand and go into markets that we were already in. It was such a huge, kind of fast-paced time. Field Trip went public. I'm sure all the listeners remember all these things. Yeah, Peter Thiel investing huge, our publicly traded company. Just, there was so much action, and COVID, there was so much money going around as well. So these investors, we're all over it. You take a psychedelic and it's like, whoa, I'm a believer, right? It's a very different product to have a business pitch around. It's like, have you tried it?
Totally.
No. Are you open to trying it? Or good, it's have you meet with all the doctors? And it's like, the world needs this. We say the one thing you shouldn't do after having a ketamine therapy experience is tell all your friends to try ketamine, right? Because you just sound crazy. But that's the feeling that they get. So it was a boom in the industry, but then economy starts to go down a little bit. All the money gets dried up a little bit. Saturation of market. You get people coming in who are undercutting very low prices. There are companies that are marketing companies. There are companies that are pharmacies, right? They're the drug company, and ketamine is just a way to get them to, get a margin on the drugs. We are a mental health company. And so that primary focus, patients come first. It's like, I'm just sitting there and understanding, what needs attention right now. And so that's why I landed towards recently our big announcement of let's treat the people who need this the most. And let's take Medicaid, let's take Medicare, let's take private payers and provide this ketamine therapy service. So it's an interesting market right now. I think people are just kind of fighting for cost. Investors, you've either been in and some things happened, sometimes things fell apart, some of them are doing well. But the excitement really fizzled out when MDMA got that introductory denial from the DEA advisory board. And so it's like, we're not going as fast as we thought. And that was another lesson. Let's stop focusing on exits. Let's stop focusing on how quickly we can grow. Let's start focusing on how many people we can reach and how effective that care can be.
Yeah, I think that's a great paradigm shift and focus that will keep us honed in on the right things. It's making people better. Sam, this has been so interesting. I love the work that you're up to, the history, the business side of things. This has been a great discussion. What call to action would you leave our listeners with today?
Yeah, I know we're all probably in the business world. Healthcare is close to us. I think the call to action is start with yourself. Take care of number one. Before business, before anything else, check in with yourself. I think there's a misnomer that if we seek mental health care, there's something wrong with us. I work with high achievers, CEOs, professional athletes. We're all just trying to unlock our best potential. It all starts with our mental health. So call to action is if you haven't ever really started that journey, whether it's yourself, you've got some workbooks, you have a therapist, a psychiatric provider, if you've never tried or heard of psychedelic medicine and how that can help, just start learning, because it really is the way that you can unlock your best self. Our website is anywhereclinic.com. We're rapidly expanding. We're in about 15 to 20 states right now. And if anybody wants that care, like I'm the psychiatrist that sees psychiatrists, let's help the leaders in our community be their best selves, because that trickles down. So appreciate the time. Thanks for listening.
Oh, of course. Sam, thank you so much. This has been a great session with you. It's been a lot of fun and also informative. And folks, take heed on what Dr. Sam Zand shared with us today, founder and CEO of Anywhere Clinic, and take care of yourself. Now's the time to do that. In the show notes, we'll leave all the ways to get a hold of him or his team. He's in a lot of states, and likelihood he's taking care of people in your state right now. So certainly reach out to learn more. Thank you all for tuning in. And Sam, this has been a true pleasure. Appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, so much fun. Thank you for having me.